Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder
And Bliss.
And Eva's back. Yay!
Yay! Thank you, Cindy, for filling in with some very incredible single serving episodes. That week felt like 3 years somehow.
The world
of
slowed
being away.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did feel kind of long too. And we're actually like recording on time this week. So it's like even been shorter than normal.
Yeah.
And it still felt really long. I really enjoyed the solo episodes that I did. The second one in particular, I really enjoyed. I based it on a nautical theme in honor of the Titan submersible. So
yeah,
yeah,
everyone's favorite story this week, most entertaining story,
definitely
of death and mayhem, and
yeah, that was a wild one. But anyway, now we're keeping it on theme by talking about murders that happened on the 4th of July. It's like the opposite of that movie Born on the 4th of July.
Died on the 4th of July.
Died on the 4th of July.
Oh, there you go. There's your little caption.
Died on the 4th of July. There it is, guys. We found it. You know, like all those episodes where they name it after something that's said in the episode, and then you sit there like waiting to try to hear it. We just did that. So
also in an episode on Discovery ID, they had Red, White, and Blood.
Ooh, I like that.
That was also good.
What about Red, White, and Dead? I know it doesn't start
Red, White, and Dead.
It doesn't start with a
It's
B,
also good.
But like it works somehow. Wait, Dead, White, and Blue.
Dead, White, and Blue, yeah.
That's kind of the color you end up being once you die. I don't know. I think we're reaching. I like died on the 4th of July. Yeah, anyway, I don't know. We haven't done anything on Patreon, but if you want to support us just to help us like fund our podcast, that's fantastic.
And you still have one. I forgot. I still have one. We still have to do it.
I know,
because crazy busy time. Yeah.
I know. It always happens where we like promise for like a month to put one out and then we finally do. So if you'd like to join us, it's patreon.com/twistedlisters. There's a murder map. There's extra content. There's not a ton. I'm not going to lie, but it's more about like supporting us as independent creators.
I mean, if you joined anew, there is a solid amount if you're like listening to it from scratch.
Agreed. There absolutely is. It's a slow burn for our oldest subscribers, but most of them are still there and we love you for that. So TikTok, it's at Twisted Listers. Instagram is
Twisted Listers PCast.
You can email us with case ideas or just to say hello at
twistedlisterspod@gmail.com.
And our website is
twistedlisterspod.com.
Thank you. All right, I guess we should just get into it. Yeah,
let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So you're going first, right? Since I chose this amazing topic. All right.
Yes, 4th of July is next week. If you listen to this podcast for any time whatsoever, you'll know that Cindy and I maybe are not like the most patriotic people. You could infer. One could infer.
Yes.
So because of that, I chose to do something I very rarely do. I have done, but I very rarely do, is a mass shooting.
Yeah, you actually have like shied away from these, I think.
Yeah, I don't love them even when they fit a topic really well, but I just thought on principle there is nothing more American literally. It's like hamburgers, hot dogs, mass shootings. Like it's literally so us, and it turns out there's a ton of them on 4th of July, which is also not surprising. So
that's fucking weird, huh?
Here we go. Let's do it.
Here we go. Let's do it. Yeah.
Also, it was weirdly. It's always fascinating to look at like a deeper profile too of the fuckers that do this, because we just kind of generalize them. And this guy fits the exact profile you kind of fucking think, right?
Right.
But still, it's still fascinating to be like, yep, that is the guy.
There he is.
Guy. There's one of them.
Yeah.
So they lurk amongst us. So this is the Highland Park 4th of July shooting that happened on 4th of July of last year.
Oh, Lordy. Okay.
And also, I'll admit, I didn't really follow this when it happened because, like so many Americans, when I see mass shootings, I'm like, oh, yep. Like, we're so jaded and they're so constant.
There was another one, I think today or yesterday, where like 12 people got injured and 4 died.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
see?
See
Exactly.
how we're like, "Oh, yeah."
No, yeah, there it is. It must be a
Another one.
Sunday.
Yeah. Other countries, they would be like, "Oh my god, a shooting happened." We're just like, "Eh."
And then they would do something to, like, stop it from
Right.
happening
They
again,
would
and here
care.
we're just like, "Hi, our society is a joke. We are the worst." Anyway, whatever.
It's a dystopian place to live
Yes,
in. Okay.
it is.
So we're gonna talk a lot about one Robert or Bobby E. Crimo or Crimo. I'm not sure which one it is.
Ew.
Crime. I'm gonna say Bobby Crimo because that sounds stupider.
And it fits more with crime. I don't like the idea
Yes.
of cream.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Let's do Crimo.
Okay.
So Bobby is, by the way, he's Crimo the third. Bobby Crimo the third.
Okay.
And we'll actually talk about the second one as well a little bit here.
Oh, okay.
So Bobby at this time in 2022 was 21 years old, and he lived with his parents, Bob Sr. and Denise, and 2 siblings, who thankfully don't feature much in this story. I hope they're doing well. And they lived in the affluent, mostly white Chicago suburb of Highland Park.
Mm-hmm.
And although his background at first seems unassuming, or some articles say it's unassuming, the more you look around, they're like, oh, no, it actually seems a little fucked up. There's definitely clues lying around to some turmoil that may have been taking place at home. For instance, his mom had arrests in the past for domestic battery and a DUI.
Oh.
So she also got a citation for leaving him in a hot car as a baby.
Oh,
the windows up.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
So
That's
yeah.
not good.
Yeah. The cops also came to the house constantly for different disputes between the parents and kind of like between different members of the family, I think, but really largely between the 2 parents. And generally, the mom and dad here called the cops a lot for what I think is clearly often very frivolous disputes, or not serious things.
Yeah.
But like kind of like rich white people, I think in general, some of them really love to just call the cops.
Yeah.
It's like they don't take it that seriously because there's no threat to them, right? So they're just like, wee woo, you know. just on speed dial, just for fun.
Because none of them think they're gonna get like killed as a result. Like they all feel safe.
They do it
doing
just to make a point, kind of, you know, or just to make a scene. For example, and I'm not going to list all the times the cops were called for dumb shit, but just trust me that there's a lot. And one example I wanted to say is that the one time the dad called the cops to report a neighbor hitting on his wife.
You don't call the cops for that. That's
not
like
a crime. That's
not a crime.
You just go talk to him and say, don't. That's it. That's all you have to do.
And to be clear, like he didn't get in trouble for doing that?
No, not that I saw. I mean, there were like multiple other times where they were calling for dumb shit reasons.
That's just fucking silly.
But then also because of like fights they were having as well, like but then nothing ever comes of it, kind of that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So his dad, Bobby Crimo Sr. the second, unsuccessfully ran for mayor of Highland Park, which is its own separate city, I guess, in 2020. And his platform was, from what I can tell on his little write-ups, was entirely conservative and all about the right to bear arms and protecting the Second Amendment. And it was all about how much he loves Trump.
Okay, so this guy's just the fucking worst.
Yeah. And both he and Bobby the third had photos on their Twitter accounts, which are now gone, but they both did. The photos are around of them with Trump flags, you know, with all the merch and all the whatever.
Just swagged out.
Yeah, swagged out in the Trump stuff. Starting in, so that's the family background, just to paint a little bit of a picture. Starting in 2016, Bobby, our main guy here, was active online under the name Awake the Rapper.
Okay.
He released a handful of songs, and two of these came with very sad, low-budget videos featuring Bobby in a classroom rapping. And I'm pretty sure he like put his phone on a little stand to make these, right? Like they're just him, right?
Oh, that's sad. It's really sad and pathetic.
It is, yes. That and that. And the videos also featured a stick figure, basically very, very poor quality animation of stick figures doing mass shootings, essentially.
Oh, that's great.
Stick figure mass shootings. And Bobby does at one point a voiceover over a stick figure mass shooting and says, quote, I need to just do it. It is my destiny, which foreshadowing.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little
little
fucking bit.
bit. So he's literally in his lyrics and the videos constantly like, I'm gonna do a mass shooting. Like he's literally like broadcasting this shit.
He's like, hey, have I mentioned this? Because I'm gonna mention it again. Then
Have I
I'll
mentioned
mention
how
it
much
one
I
more
love
time.
mass shooters, how I think they're great, how I'd love to do one sometime. This is like my destiny, right?
Really into mass shooting right now.
Yeah. So he frequently posted about mass shootings and violence and just violent content in general across various platforms. For example, he posted a video of a beheading in a message board. So he has a long-standing record of this kind of thing.
God
he
damn.
Also was clearly into his dad, shared his dad's far-right leanings. We already know that from the Trump flag. But he also ran a Discord called SS.
Okay.
Which, if you don't know, that's the police that arrested Jewish people in the Holocaust, right?
A little bit of a Nazi sitch.
Ran the concentration camps, just in case you didn't know. He also frequently used the symbol for his wrapping image, a symbol that came from a far-right Finnish organization. So it's kind of like a knockoff swastika, if you will.
Okay.
He seemed to cultivate some kind of image. That's what I literally wrote. Some kind of something for his rapper. Something. For his rapper persona, because he had brightly colored hair and face tattoos that included Awake. He got that his rapper name, right, written on his forehead in cursive.
Did he really?
Right above his eyebrow, very large, very poorly forward tattoo.
Okay.
So this kid's making a lot of choices.
A lot.
But it's always interesting too when someone tries to do like, I'm a rapper and like, and they come from a very rich white background.
Yeah, and you're like, really? Dude,
and he kind of he's trying to look what I would say is like street, or he's trying to look kind of rough around the edges, and he is
right. Not. No, definitely not.
So April 2019, here's some more shit. Police went to the Crimo family home for a well-being check after it was reported that Bobby tried to commit suicide with a machete.
Oh shit.
They were told by the family that he was receiving some kind of mental health care, but did not like look into that or check that.
They were just like, you're rich and white. We'll take you on your word.
We believe you.
Do no wrong. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Later, so that was that. They just said, hey, and he's like, I'm fine. And they're like, okay, bye. That September 2019, police came to the home again after an unspecified family member said that Bobby threatened to kill the entire family.
Okay.
And after this incident, police apparently went and confiscated some of an extensive collection of knives found in Bobby's closet, including 16 assorted knives, a dagger, and wait for it, a samurai sword. Because
yes, of course he has a samurai sword.
Right away, you understand the exact person that we are dealing with.
I do. I think I have to look him up now because I think I already know what he looks like.
Yes, you do, and you are correct. You do, and you are correct.
Oh no.
Yes, I would. I want to see a chart. To be honest, I want to see a pie chart of the amount of the white men mass shooters in the past 5 years. How many own samurai swords? Like, I want to see a chart.
Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know who this guy is. Yeah, this guy's a fucking loser. Oh my god, look at him.
Yes.
What a fucking neck.
Honestly, part of the appeal of doing this case in particular is to make fun of him as well.
Yeah.
But
and he literally has like a neck beard in some of these photos.
He screams, I have a samurai sword. Like
he does.
He's
like,
screaming, oozing it. Yeah.
Yes.
No offense to like, I mean, I was gonna say no offense to people with samurai swords, but maybe a little bit.
If you're not a samurai, then offense to you, sir.
Oh.
Or ma'am. Or person. Okay. I don't want to,
But if you collect like specialty knives, like you might be a serial killer.
Yeah.
Or at least a dick. It's quite likely. Okay.
Or just a fucking dork. I mean,
samurai sword. I could. Yeah. When I saw that detail, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. We've been here. Yeah. Remember the serial killer I did? I think Adam Wall for the Patreon. Also a samurai sword guy.
Yeah.
Also had those. So police, and he killed people with them, actually, in that case. So police apparently submitted a report to evaluate whether or not he was a clear and present danger to anyone after this threat was made. And Crimo said, no, I actually don't want to harm anyone. And so they were like, okay. And so they don't establish him as a danger of any kind.
Which I'm sorry, but look at him. That guy is a school shooter too late. Like, he is definitely like,
he screams school shooter. Yeah,
he does. He just missed his chance somehow. But he made up for it, obviously.
He tried, yeah. So so despite the suicide attempt and then subsequently the threat to his family, several opportunities were clearly missed over the years to do an official mental health evaluation, which that never happens. Right. And even though the family says that he did something like that, it didn't happen. And there's no official signed complaints, which I guess is what's needed. So there's absolutely nothing on his record as far as mental health goes. So Crimo was able, Junior here, was able to legally purchase an assault rifle and several other guns in 2020 and 2021. And he was able to pass all the background checks because, again, all these opportunities were missed to flag anything at all.
Okay.
And because he was under 21 at the time of these purchases, due to like Illinois law, his father, Bob Crimo Sr., had to sponsor him and co-sign all the material so that he could get a firearm owner's card. So, and I'm going to circle back to this, one would think the dad, who's been threatened multiple times
what the
by
fuck?
his son,
wouldn't give him the means. Yeah, like let me give you the means to follow through on your promises. Like what the fuck?
Yes.
Oh my God, these fucking people. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna go off on a tangent, but I'm just gonna say that there's a very recent news story that kind of backs up the idea that people with money believe they are untouchable.
Yeah. Yeah. I would believe that. I believe that. So July 4th, here we are at the main event. The background definitely gives you a richer picture of this fellow.
Big time.
So July 4th last year, before about 10 in the morning, Bobby put on women's clothing as kind of a disguise. He grabbed his assault rifle, semi-automatic, as we mentioned, took his mom's car and drove to downtown Highland Park, where the annual 4th of July parade was taking place.
Yep.
He climbed up on a rooftop, and at about 10:15 a.m., the parade's underway. Yeah. He started firing on the crowd. He fired more than 70 rounds. Obviously, the scene is horrific. We've all seen footages of this nature, and you can watch the aftermath of this. You can watch like the shooting take place on video, but I don't recommend it. Yeah. The crowd flees in terror, and the kind of I always find in these things like what's really haunting is like the scene left behind, like the shoes and the chair, like all people's stuff that they just threw in the air.
They just fucking bail. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not really a thing where you're not taking your stuff. Yeah, you're just running.
No.
Some people were even injured in the stampede of the crowds trying to run away.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
So in the shooting, he ultimately killed 7 people and wounded 48. Including wounding 4 to 5 children. The victims of both the murder and woundings were ranging in ages from 8 to 85, which is absolutely heartbreaking.
That's fucking horrible.
Among the victims were, and I just, out of some kind of decency, since I just talked about stupid Bobby for so long, I'll talk about the victims very briefly. The victims included married couple Irina and Kevin McCarthy, who were in their 30s and attending the parade with their 2-year-old son.
No.
Whom Kevin died while shielding from the gunfire.
Oh God, that's the worst.
Yep.
That's so sad.
Yeah. Insane.
And also like absolutely not surprising at all.
No, that's what people do in that scenario.
Yep.
So, and obviously a testament to fucking who Kevin clearly was.
He was a dad.
Yeah, fucking dad. That's what dads do.
Yeah. Yep, standard.
78-year-old Nicolas Toledo Zaragoza from Morelos, Mexico, who was a father of 8, who was visiting some of his children who lived in Highland Park.
Jesus.
And he was sitting in a wheelchair and didn't have a chance to even run away. Yeah. 88-year-old Stephen Strauss, a beloved grandfather whose grandkids went online and said a bunch of nice things about him and how he was full of life. And even though he was 88, was still like getting out and doing all kinds of shit like this. Yeah. Jackie Sondheim, who I didn't get her age, but she looks like she's in her like 50s or 60s. She was a beloved lady who everyone had nice things to say about, who worked at a synagogue her entire life, and she was really devoted to it. The 7th, and I think I'm missing a whole victim, so I'm sorry. I counted wrong.
There's a lot. Yeah.
I tried. But the seventh victim, 69-year-old Eduardo Uvaldo, passed away a short while after the shooting after being placed on life support at a nearby hospital. He was a beloved father who just celebrated his 50-year anniversary with his wife, and he attended the parade diligently every year. It was like his thing.
That's
yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah. So among the many stories of the injured, one always comes up in the news in particular, and it's that of an 8-year-old boy who was left paralyzed after the shooting, and in a wheelchair, essentially. And the news ran various stories about his different milestones in his recovery process. I believe he was obviously continued to be wheelchair bound, but he like went back to school and was able to like, make up something of a normal life, but still like, Jesus Christ. Like,
yeah, that's fucking horrifying. Like, Ollie's 8. I cannot imagine.
No, like your whole life changes just because of some fucking dick. Like,
yeah.
So, and of course, I won't get into it, but like celebrities and charities and like baseball teams and shit did all kinds of nice things for him too, to like, lift up his spirit. So surveillance video, back to our scene here. Surveillance video would later show, shut up, sirens. Okay. Surveillance video would later show Bobby running from the scene with his gun in a black bag slung over his shoulder. As he was running, because he's so cool and smart, he dropped the whole ass gun, but just kept going.
Just like, fuck it.
Yeah, wow, what a great murderer you are.
Yeah, good getaway there, brah.
Brilliant. So it was later found along with all the casings and many more magazines of ammo that he left on the roof. So clearly he intended to do even more damage, but he like bailed.
Got interrupted or something, kind of.
I think he just heard like police coming and was like, oh,
Yeah, what a fucking idiot.
Yeah, these guys all like planned for like, I'm gonna do the biggest mass shooting ever, and then they bitch out. I mean, not to say that it's cool or anything, but like per their own framework of what they want to do, they are not going to do it.
Right.
So because they run a search on the gun, it's like right there, right? It's fucking registered to him. They're like, okay, well, where's this guy? So they put up posters, but it only takes about 7 hours to catch up with him driving on the freeway. And I just have to like take a deep breath because I'm going to yell for a minute here.
Okay.
Robert Crimo was arrested peacefully. And this
really?
Yeah, with guns on him. And this drew many comparisons between this arrest and the many Black people, of course, that cops shoot like right away without even doing like a hey, hands up like moment, or even attempting to bring them in peacefully in any way. And an obvious example that people connected to this case was that of a 25-year-old Black driver named Jayland Walker. He was shot and killed after fleeing the scene of a traffic stop, unarmed, but just running away. And that was only a week before this in Akron, Ohio. And for running, he was shot 60 times.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, but this guy, this white kid who had guns on him
and murdered people
and literally killed people was arrested calmly. And they took Dylan Roof to like McDonald's, right?
Right. Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah. So just have to say that you can actually arrest armed people peacefully.
But unarmed, they're going to get shot.
They're so scary. They're so scary.
Well, it's the color of their skin, really. I mean,
scary. Yeah,
dark
exactly.
Skin is inherently terrifying.
Yes. So this motherfucker was charged with 117 total various, variety pack of charges, including, of course, 7 counts of first-degree murder. He pled not guilty, even though he also reportedly confessed. So presumably he's shooting for like an insanity plea type thing.
Yeah.
Even though it would have been really good if you had that mental health evaluation, sir. If that's what you're going for. But your family never hooked you up with one. So presumably he's going to get that now and try to pay someone to say he's insane. Which honestly, he could have mental problems though. Knowing this kid's background, he could.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he doesn't. You know what I mean? It's just whether or not he's actually insane and therefore not responsible. That's
per the legal definition.
I don't know about that.
Who knows? Yeah, but it's 100% like he's not. It's not like I'm saying he's 100% sane or anything.
No. There's just like a legal line, and I don't know that he's crossed it.
So
I mean, Charles Manson could be in regular prison. They got a lot of proven to do.
Yeah.
Anyways. Like,
Cindy's like, free Charles Manson. Oh wait, he's dead.
No, he's dead. But I'm just saying, like, if he was considered sane enough to go to actual prison,
Oh yeah,
I just don't really understand. Like, that's a pretty low bar. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Well, I think when a crime is bad enough, like or high profile enough, it doesn't matter. In America, it doesn't matter.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It absolutely goes out the window. Oh, Charles Manson was like the least sane man alive.
Yeah.
So in any case, Bob Crimo Sr., so the second here, his dad was in a very unusual move, was charged with 7 counts of reckless conduct in relation to the shooting because prosecutors, and I kind of applaud this, like it's very bold and very rare, but prosecutors argue that he shouldn't have fucking signed those fucking firearms paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, they're not fucking wrong. They're not wrong.
He had a very uniquely he was uniquely aware of his son's violent, dangerous behavior. Like he was the number one person, the parents were, that were super aware. Should not have signed that, right?
No.
And without him, he wouldn't have had those guns. So the dad's lawyers, of course, said like these charges are ridiculous, and said he couldn't have known what his son would do. He had no idea. He's not a fortune teller. They said something like that. And he didn't take his threats seriously. He just thought they were outbursts, quote unquote. And I'm like, okay, say what you will about the threats, but like if you had given your son's raps and his rap videos, maybe just like, I guarantee you he never did.
Cursory little listen there, bud. Just a little
just go
check
through his
on
profiles or something. Like, that's kind of like, hey, I'm going to do a mass shooting. I really want to. And then the parents are like, we could never have known.
How would we know when we bought him this gun that he would use it? Like, well,
Every single like white guy mass shooter of this type, which is again like the majority of them at this point, in America, like every news story is like, he was a nice young man we could never have known. And then there's like pictures in the social media of him with like a giant assault rifle in front of a Trump banner, and I'm like, we could never have
never known when he said he was going to do this that he was going to do this. We're so perplexed. How could we have prevented this?
Yeah. Okay.
It's just embarrassing at this point, to be honest.
It really is. So according to all news sources, his motive, quote unquote, if we can even say he has one for the shooting, was apparently not like racialized or based in racism, which, I mean, his victims were mostly white. So like, okay, technically, but it was vaguely political, question mark, or, you know, rooted in his kind of right-wing gun loving ways. And I think just wanting to be a mass shooter is the motive, right? Much like Stephen Paddock, who did the Vegas shooting, like last podcast just did an in-depth analysis of that. And his motive was like wanting to do it. You know what I mean? Like he did not have like a deep hatred of society or like fucking, there wasn't like anything deeper than that. They just worship the mass shooting thing and want to do it. Like that's how bleak this shit is in this country now, because it's so rampant. People just get into it. Right. So further investigation would reveal that Bobby had been planning this for years, but apparently not very well, which I'm glad in a way, even though there were still a lot of carnage. You know, he didn't pull off what he wanted to. And back at his house, they discovered what they described as an arsenal of bomb making supplies and various bombs, which I guess he had locked away, which also like, hi parents. Like, okay, I wouldn't let my kid live in my house, even as an adult, with like a secret locked cabinet. Okay. But he claimed he didn't bring them or like do any bombings because they were too heavy to carry.
Oh, if that isn't the most like entitled fucking
it was too hard. I built all these bombs, but it was like hard. I didn't want to.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. So the trial for Bob Sr. is set to begin this fall, and Bobby's trial has been delayed, but also will probably start this fall. So they've just been like sitting around, although I'm pretty sure the dad is out on bail because his charges are like lesser. So that's the story, but I'm going to end with some really horrible statistics because it's the season of patriotism. So this shooting was one of only 642 mass shootings in 2022 in America. And it was
642 only?
Only. And it was one of 12. It was one of 12 that happened on July 4th of last year. So July 4th mass shootings last year, 12.
That's insane. What the fuck?
Peaks on the 4th of July.
I'm so glad I'm doing something just like privately at a friend's house.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't go to a fucking parade. Not to victim blame these people, but it sucks that I even have to like think that.
Yeah.
Uh, last 4th of July, other shootings included one that wounded 5 people in the nearby Chicago neighborhood of Parkway Gardens. So like there was actually another mass shooting in the same city in the same day. Terrifyingly. In July, and there were headlines too that kind of lumped them together and said like carnage on the 4th of July in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
In July 2022 alone, there were 5 people shot at a Walmart in Mount Vernon, Washington. There were a man that shot and killed 3 people in a mall in Indiana on the same day as the Walmart in Washington. So that just some statistics. As we talked about, there's nothing more American than a mass shooting. And if you're like Lyndon or you're British or you're from Australia or something, and you're like, God, how do you guys deal with it? Not well.
Yeah, we just kind of like I was at the observatory today and I was looking at for all the exits. I was like, how could I get out of here with my 8-year-old if somebody starts shooting, because it could absolutely definitely fucking happen. The Safeway that I used to shop at when I lived in Bend was the one where the shooting took place. And I used to go to that Safeway because it was the nicer Safeway. So like what the fuck, you know? It like you're not safe anywhere in this country because our country is run by, I mean, I don't believe in devils, but our country is run by devils. Like in the
I
real
believe
sense of the word, not the
absolutely. They go home at night and they fucking unzip their human suits and they get little lizard, scaly demon people that crawl back into like a lizard egg, and that's what they do.
That's what they do. They don't give a fuck about us. They just it's insane to me. It's insane to me.
Yeah, it causes a lot of anxiety. It affects where we go, what we do. I do not like crowded events and big things like because of this reason. And you know, we think, like you said, thinking about exits, we think about it all the time. It's really fucked up. And it really, you know, is what we talk about sometimes when we think about like, oh, should we move to Canada? And we're not really joking.
Not at all. No. I mean, Canada's not great, but it's better for a lot of things.
A lot of things. No, and I have some friends that were like leaving the country or moving out of the country and for some other job, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well, there's like no mass shootings and and we don't have to worry about that with our kids." And I was like, "That's a wild sentence."
Yeah,
like
must be fucking nice, also. But like, why is this even something we have to consider ever?
It is always considered when you're thinking about moving. You're like, well, we don't have to worry about that.
No mass shootings. Yeah. Fuck this place. Okay.
Yeah, and also fuck that kid and his Dumpbuck family. So
yeah, the kid's absolute giant piece of fetid garbage, and his dad's a fucking moron at best. But what do you expect from like a Trumper? So whatevs. Okay. Well, anybody who believes in our political system, like yikes, big yikes, but whatever.
Yeah.
Not gonna go down that road right now. Instead I'm gonna talk about it's not a mass shooting, it's like a spree. This is a spree killing. And shockingly, this also takes place on the 4th of July in the year 2017. And this is the story of Jeffrey Holsinger. So there's not a ton of lead up to this case. I know lately, and like, I feel like a lot of the time you don't do a ton of lead up. You just get right into the case, which is
most of the time.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of lead up. And today you did a good amount of lead up, which is actually really
switched around.
Yeah. And now I'm not doing much. So I'm just going to get right into it. 31-year-old Jeffrey Holsinger was at a friend's house on 4th of July, 2017. He was very agitated this day, and with good reason. His father's funeral had been just the day before. His father had died only about a week prior in a freak accident on like I don't know if it's a highway or just like a, back road in Ohio, where the extra wheel from a trailer came loose, bounced on the road, and hit the car he was in, killing him. And yes, this happens. I have seen tires bouncing on the road. I know people had them bounce over their cars. Like, this is, just another
This is out of Final Destination.
It really is. It really is.
My husband's favorite movies ever.
I mean, they are good. They are good. I love how death is like, funny. I will get you. Like, we're meant to die.
And it is funny how they think of really, really stupid ways to kill.
Yeah, I know. It just got more and more campy, which made it better. The first one was like legitimately good, and then they're like, let's up the camp and make it good in a different way.
You'll never look at those trucks with the logs the same way again.
Nope. Yeah. And that was Final Destination 2, right?
I forget. Yeah.
I think it was 2. Anyway, Jeffrey is at this house, which is where his father had been living. So maybe he was picking up items. I don't really know. But somehow he ends up in an argument with one of the residents of that house, 34-year-old Stephen Motti Jr., or I apologize, 35-year-old Stephen Motti Jr. It's unclear what the argument was about, but pretty quickly, the already agitated Holsinger pulls out a gun and shoots Stephen in the chest. Now, Stephen was either already in the bathroom or ran into the bathroom after being shot, but either way, once in the bathroom, he fell down dead. Holsinger then waits for Stephen's father, Stephen Motti Sr., to come home because they all lived together in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And when he arrived, Jeffrey Holsinger hit him in the head, I believe, with the butt of the gun, knocking him unconscious. He then calls a friend to come pick him up, like nothing happened. This friend, 23-year-old Jesse Little, picks Holsinger up, none the wiser to anything that went down. Jesse drives him to Rapid Ford Road, which is like 4 miles away, to a hunting spot. Because I guess you could just pull, in Ohio, you just pull to the side of the road and like park and go hunting.
Okay.
It's like a thing. So they park there, and Jesse has no idea what's going on. But pretty quickly, Jeffrey Holsinger pulls out a gun, the same gun, and shoots Jesse. Shoots him like 3 or 4 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah. First, he holds him up, makes him get out of the car, shoots him repeatedly, and then drives away in this poor guy's car.
Oh my
Jesse is not dead. He is injured seriously, but not critically. So he runs into the woods to get away. And then he runs out of the woods shortly thereafter and jumps into the van of another man named Jesse, who takes him to the hospital. And I just wanted to note that this Jesse who picks him up said that he did so because it was, quote, the Christian thing to do, which I just thought I would add.
All right. Sure.
If this man was not a Christian, I guess he would have picked him up. So
I mean, whatever motive you need to say you have for doing cool stuff.
The right thing. Yeah. Like I'm fine.
Okay.
As long as you don't use it for other reasons.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Jesse who was shot starts, quote, hollering, because I had to also say that that's what the other guy said.
You got to include that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hollering. He was hollering about how his friend shot him and he had no idea why, but his friend was trying to kill him and had stolen his car. So he was just like, basically like big, what the fuck? Like, you asked me for a ride, I come and pick you up and you fucking shoot me and steal my car and we're friends? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, very strange.
So the friend, Jesse, who's been shot, is taken to the hospital and he reports to the hospital staff and to police what happened. And by this time, also, about 15 minutes after Jesse reports this, Stephen's father wakes up from being knocked out by the gun and also calls police. And while these reports are being filed almost simultaneously, Jeffrey Holsinger is still on a tear. And this time he drives further into Ross County, which is in Ohio, and continues his attack. And this time he attacks randomly, choosing a house on Browns Chapel Road, where 79-year-old Paul Robertson and his friend, 67-year-old Dawn Wilson, are just hanging out, probably getting ready for fireworks. And who knows what else they were doing. She's listed as his friend, but I immediately was like, maybe it was romantic. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a romantic. In any case, Holsinger enters the home and very unfortunately immediately shoots and kills Paul. And in a move very similar to the first attack, he then beats Dawn very badly, but allows her to run away into the woods while he steals Paul's car.
Okay.
Police later said they believe he did this as he knew they would be looking for Jesse's car because he knew Jesse didn't die and would report the attack. So he was just basically looking to steal a different car that he could take. So he takes off in this car and Dawn goes for help. So now there are 3 calls in on this asshole and police can track his movements pretty easily. But on top of that, Paul had a caddy. He had a new caddy because that is definitely what old white men get when they want to be like ballers. And that also made me think that this young lady that was over at his house was maybe like, a romantic interest.
Okay.
So it's pretty fucked up what happened to him. But he has a tracking device on his car in case of theft. So they just track him. He's just driving around thinking he's like in a car they won't recognize. And meanwhile, Dawn has already told them what the car is. And not only do they know what car it is, but they can literally just track it. So
yeah, he's off thinking I'm on my spree way. And it's like, no.
Yeah, and they're like, no, fool. And it's a good thing, too, because everybody in these towns around, this was like Chillicothe, I think is where he was. They're all coming out into the streets and to parks for the 4th of July. They're just coming out to celebrate America.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker is just driving around throwing this big old tantrum and could potentially kill more people. Luckily, though, because of all the information and the, witnesses that were left and the, GPS in the car. Within just 2 hours of the final shooting, police were engaged in a chase with Holsinger, who went from Ross County to Madison County and finally to Franklin County, where he was shockingly arrested without
Without
incident.
incident,
There it
after
is
shooting a bunch of
again.
people. Yeah.
And being on a high-speed chase. Yeah.
Mm.
Yep. I do have to say, like, I kind of think that he was wanting to get caught because he left like half of the people alive.
Yeah.
And
Or
it's
just he
really
wasn't thinking things through at the time.
well, I mean, he beat that dude, the old guy, Steven. Maybe he thought because he was old, he was gonna die from getting hit with the butt of a gun. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. That seems a little weird. But Dawn and Jesse both literally like ran from him and he let them go. And
Yeah.
the other thing is he told Dawn his first name.
Wow.
So yeah, he like gave her information and then let her disappear into the
I
woods.
guess he's just doing this as long as he can get away with it, I guess. But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But he was arrested and charged with all sorts of shit, the worst being, murder, obviously.
yeah.
And due to his previous record, it wasn't looking good. Jeffrey had only been out of prison for about a year at this time after doing 6 years for aggravated robbery, receiving stolen property, and also escape because he escaped by just literally walking off of a job detail. He's
Oh,
just like,
okay.
I'm a head out, like that SpongeBob meme.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
SpongeBob memed it out of there. It was just like, I'm gonna
Uh,
be free now, goodbye.
I
But they did catch him, and I don't know how much extra time they gave him. It doesn't sound like much if he got 6 years for all of that. And I did
wow.
just find that kind of funny, honestly. But in the end, he pled guilty so that he would not get the death penalty because in Ohio they do have the death penalty. And even
Mhm.
though it's like takes decades and decades and decades for them to actually kill anybody, they do eventually. And also like being held on death row is quite different from being just like in general population in the prisons. And I
Yeah.
think just to avoid even, 'cause he wasn't like old, he was 31 at the time. So he
Right.
could have definitely been put to death at some point. But instead, he got life without parole. So, and it kind of bugged me. The prosecutor was like, I'm not really happy with this. I think we could have got the death penalty. And then he like got me because he was like, it's fair to say that like our death penalty system isn't perfect. And I was like, oh, he's talking about how like
Yeah.
sometimes they convict the wrong people. But instead he goes on to be like, yeah, because he'd probably sit on death row for like way too long. Like we don't actually execute people very quickly in this state.
Uh,
So it would
okay.
kind of be pointless. And I
He's
was
like,
like,
oh,
all right.
you almost had us with you.
Yeah, I was almost like, what kind of prosecutor are we dealing with? But unfortunately, he was a very standard one.
I
So
mean, it's true that it is broken either way. Like if you're for it or against it, it doesn't work.
yeah, nobody's
So
happy with the process.
if you're
Maybe we should
trying to
just get
kill
rid of it.
people, it also doesn't do that. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
also true.
and at the time this went down, they only had one other prisoner in the entire state that was scheduled to be put to death. And I actually failed to look at whether or not he was. It was in
Mm,
2021. Um,
okay.
and I totally spaced double checking if he was. But so it's not like they have like a long death penalty list in Ohio by any means.
Yeah.
Um, but even if they do, apparently it still takes them, decades
Yeah.
to get through all the appeals and all of that. So yeah. Anyway, that was a
Wow.
quickie little
Yeah.
story of Rampage. Losing a parent is terrible. Don't rampage murder about it though.
No.
It's not the way to
Yeah.
handle
Do
it.
do other things about it, but don't do that.
Yeah. Cry, drink, eat, go to therapy if you need.
Take a nap.
Don't take a nap. Yeah, just don't murder everybody.
No, no,
It's
no, no,
not that's
no.
not the way to be.
That's very
Yeah.
bad.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
really, really two American dudes though that we got today. I think.
Yeah, they were very,
Um,
very like middle America,
I feel like
American.
they both have weird tattoos. I feel like they would hang out.
They both have like a meth aura. Like whether or not they
Yes.
actually do meth,
No,
they
no,
have
no.
the
It's a
aura of
vibe.
meth.
It's
It
just a
is. It's
vibe.
interesting how meth is both a drug and like a personality trait.
It's an adjective. Yes.
It is.
No, no. We say methy as an adjective.
Yeah. They're both very methy.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, pretty interesting. What were the types of people we're gonna see in a lot of these stories, I think. Or even the
Happy.
ones we don't cover that we just like reviewed. It's very
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
God bless America.
Erica. It always reminds me of the final scene in The Deer Hunter.
Mm.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh my God, Diva. It's so fucking good.
I know. I feel like I know everything about it, though. It's one of those movies that's so famous. I feel like I know it, but I haven't seen it.
You
But
could watch the final scene and get the idea, but if you
okay.
really want to drive it home, watch the whole movie because the final scene is just like such a condemnation of like our entire country. It's amazing. It's an amazing movie. So everybody watch it.
Great. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We're so glad you're back, Diva.
Yeah.
I guess we'll be back. Both of these are
2.
actually going to come out before the 4th of July, I believe.
Yes.
I'll
have to pick another patriotic topic for next week.
Something. Yeah, we should. But I just figured it would be fun to do something kind of, on theme since we haven't done that for a while. So anyway, before I say one more time, let's just get out of this episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Please like, rate, review, share with your friends and family. Big thanks to Kay for taking care of all of our social media now, even though I still pop in here and there, and so do you. Yes. Until the next episode, everybody have a great 4th of July, even though we'll get to say that again. And until then,
stay
off our. Bye.